Hey, what is up, headhunters and executive recruiters? This is your proverbial boy DSP.
I'm out of the picture.
It's live.
There we go.
There we go with Neil Lebovits and
I'm rocking, man.
you're okay. We got to introduce your guest, Neil.
No, we
Neil,
don't just do the guest immediately. We do our quick little thing like you're doing. We say hello. We go in the music, and you do the guest intro. I'm the color guy. And then I cut in. You turn it over to them. We haven't gotten this down yet. And then I say, well, wait a sec, because you asked them to tell them about themselves. I say, but they don't want to tell them about themselves. David, let me do a little intro. But so let's not mess up that magic, even though we haven't figured it out yet. So
we don't have magic yet.
I think we've had some magic.
At the bottom, sir. But I will say our special guest today is Kathleen Steffey. Did I pronounce your name correctly? Hopefully I did, Steffey. So in a surprising twist in Headhunters and Boxers history, we actually have a quality guest on this week. I'm not quite sure how this happened. I'm not quite sure how to react. It kind of makes me a little bit nervous here, actually, Neil. I think we might have made a fatal error. We're going to have someone out here that makes us look bad.
We do, and there's a couple of things about the guest. For one, and she has breasts, meaning we all have breasts, but she has women breasts. We have our. Yeah. She didn't want us to talk about her breasts, but we're not talking about them. We're talking about it as you as a woman. She's a woman, is my point. Yeah. She's a woman, and we've been told on some of the feedback you need a female guest, which we had, but unfortunately we had Zoom trouble, so she was only on for about 4 minutes. So, Kathleen, you are our first female guest, and we don't know how to behave. We don't know what to do.
I kind of don't either, quite frankly. I'm honored, and this is a huge deal for me. It really is.
How scared are you? 1 to 10.
I'm not scared at all. I'm actually quite excited. But you might need to change the name of your show because you have a female, and it might need to be Headhunters.
Don't say it.
In panties.
Oh, I love it. Show it. Yes. Yes. Ding, 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 ding. All right. That's all we have time for. Look at David. I've never seen you blush. Look at you. You are red. You are red.
I have an issue with that word. Issue.
I know.
The reason why is I've had okay, so Elisa, my fiance, she's done this to me before a few years ago, where she'll say something like, my boxers are in, and she'll say, oh, you get your panties. I'm like, dude, they're boxers. And I'm like, well, they're just panties. It's just what you call underwear. I'm like, no, it's not.
It's not. Come on. Don't get your panties in a bunch is what you call, right, someone that's being a girly man.
Yeah, so I'm here about,
Are you wearing, David? Are you wearing boxers? I always wear boxers. David, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. I think you're lazy. I think you're not. I'm wearing my boxer briefs today. They're very brief, so I won't show them. But they're boxer briefs.
Today I'm wearing my beach boxer briefs. Actually, it's a beach scene. Got some palm trees. It's very relaxing.
I love it.
Yeah.
Do you have a big palm tree in the middle, like that old joke? Like it's supposed to, like, is that a tree, or are you just happy to see me kind of thing?
I'm not that big. I'm down to about a 12, which I believe is that average. I believe modest 12.
Stop it, Kathleen. Are you wearing? Are you really wearing panties? Or are you like? We're not gonna. No, it's a. Don't look at your husband. Is he watching now?
No one is in this room right now.
Oh, well, what did you just look at? You look like. Are you? What are you wearing?
Weird shit.
I feel like Howard Stern. What are you wearing right now?
That's my pause. That's my pause.
Okay.
The question.
What are you wearing?
I'm gonna leave that up in the air.
That's awesome. You could just, but you're. Let's just say you're participating in the show's sort of MO and what it's meant to be. The essence is happening.
All right, it is.
Excellent. Good enough.
So why don't we move on to some interesting things that people actually want to hear about, like some tips and tricks, and let's try to move away from the panty. That just makes you uncomfortable. Even hearing the word panties, saying it, panties. Just don't. It's meant for us private use, sir.
Oh my goodness. I think we can keep everything in moderation. Know what I mean? Like everything in moderation. She brought it up. We didn't. So in our defense, and for the sponsors out there, for like the female sponsors of the female products, like, we have a feminine hygiene sponsor that's out there now. Like she brought it up. We did not. So I don't think we should lose anything.
I think we just lost a Maybelline sponsor, I believe.
Maybelline. Yeah. Is that still around? That's great. Maybelline.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't think it is.
Maybe it's Maybelline. Oh, that's a stupid joke.
That's anyway.
So Kathleen.
Oh God, wait. Maybe as in Maybelline. Yeah, that's not good.
Maybe it's Maybelline. So, Kathleen, tell us about yourself and your firm. So here's the interesting thing: is that you're not just some nobody. You actually have been out there. You've been public. You actually have had some really good articles and interviews. I'm not quite sure why you're here. If things are that bad for you, I apologize, and hopefully we can, Anyway, but moving on.
Right. This isn't going on a resume of shows. Like, she sent me all of like the hundreds of things. She's been really impressive stuff. Forbes and the Ladders podcast and like real legit stuff. This isn't going to show up. So what'd you do? I did Forbes. I did the Ladders. I did a monster.com show, and I did Headhunters with panties. No, that's not going to make it, is it?
You might be surprised.
Really?
Surprised.
All right. Makes it feel good.
It's the brave new world. So, Kathleen, tell us about yourself.
All right. And here's where I cut in and I say, well, wait a second, because they're going to be a little shy. Let me tell you why we selected Kathleen. I work directly with the talent producer who works with getting the talent each week. Kathleen, indeed, as David said, has been all over the place. So, and she's got some great stories to tell. We don't plan the show to like, we're going to talk about this, we're going to talk about that. So I will say a couple of things. I definitely am interested, if we want to get to it, that she's done an amazing thing with her team, where her team of recruiters, highly successful firm in sales and marketing, they really don't make cold calls. They get lots of inbound calls. She's really big on changing the reputation of the industry. So really great things on why the industry kind of stinks, why recruiters have a bad reputation, right? How team selection is. I mean, there's how people just don't respond. I mean, there's just great recruiting nuggets and everything that she talks about. And again, I don't want to have an agenda today. So with that said, Kathleen, I'd love you to tell us your story, like David was going to say, and some more of the shows you've been on. And why do you keep getting picked for these things? What's the secret sauce?
And why us?
Yeah, that as well.
Okay, where do I start? So my name's Kathleen. I've been in recruiting for 25 years now, and I've owned Naviga for 18. I started on the corporate recruiting side of recruiting. So I was internal, and then I worked my way up into corporate recruiting leadership for software and tech companies. And I went overseas as an expat for one of the software companies, and I was hiring a bunch of people from, around different European countries. And then 9/11 hit. So they shut down the European operation and shipped all the Americans back. And I had like a year severance, and I was like, what do I want to do? And so I just started recruiting, little by little. And I was like, I can kill it. I'm killing it. This is way too easy for me to do and make money this way. And I just grew it organically.
And odd that you chose to go to Afghanistan as an expat. Bad timing with 9/11.
Yes,
my opinion. Yeah.
That was a weird choice, right?
You took care of providing people in the caves, like the cave engineers and things like that, I think, which is brilliant, ahead of your time.
I was in Amsterdam, so it was awesome. It was for 2 years. Great time.
Did you visit the coffee shops?
I don't think you know how to properly expat, by the way. That's not where you go expatting, from what I understand. I've read the book.
Afghanistan or Amsterdam?
Afghanistan. No, Amsterdam, not so much anymore nowadays. The reason for going there isn't really as strong as it used to be, because now it's, here in Florida, or here in the U.S. But like I said, Afghanistan, it's not prime expat material. So I'm curious, why Afghanistan?
Wait, do you know he was kidding?
Of course. Yes, David. You know I was joking.
Okay, sorry.
Oh my God, David, it's a 9/11 joke.
Oh.
I was joking that she's in Afghanistan. What a bad choice before 9/11. Get it?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Wow.
Got it.
David, that's a rarity. Mark, what time is it on the screen? Mark this and save this. David, this has got to go in the promo, because you are one of the sharpest people I've ever met. I've never seen that happen with us.
Man, I'm slipping. My mind's in a million different places today. I apologize. I'm going to go ahead and leave the show right now. Neil, please take over.
No, I want to. What the greatest part was watching Kathleen's reaction, because at first I'm like, "Oh, Dave, this is pretty funny. I love your deadpan."
Me too.
All right, and then you keep going, and then I'm like, "I think he might be serious," but no, I didn't think so. And then Kathleen's face was just vexed. He's joking.
We're moving on. So tell us more about Amsterdam. I really want to hear about
Amster. Damn. Yeah. Did you go to the not the red light district because she's a woman? Not that you can't. Are there guys in the red light district?
You still go.
Yeah, there's guys
No,
and females.
not real. No, I'm in the windows. I never saw a guy there.
Definitely.
Really?
They have a section, and that's fine. And but yeah, I went. It's a cultural thing, and then whoever would visit, of course, they'd want to see it, so I'd walk it with them and all that. So.
How about the coffee shops? Did you ever go in there? Is that too? We don't want to talk about that. Not that you partook. Let's assume you did not. But did you ever go in to see what it's all about, just for curiosity?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And I'm not too into that. I'm a very small woman, so a lot of things affect me very quick. So I don't dabble into stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I remember it being an overwhelming, like they mix everything with that tobacco, right? They roll their own things and it just wafted of tobacco. It was, and for someone like, I don't like cigarette smoke. It was a horrific,
yeah.
Like your clothes stink. And again, I just went in there to see what was happening.
Right.
But my clothes stunk of
yeah,
tobacco.
but when you mix that the nicotine and that, it's very
it's a spliff, right?
Way.
David, you know we're joking about Amsterdam, don't you?
Yeah. No. We're talking about the enhancement. But that said, I do though want to start digging into some of the more practical things because to be honest with you, most of the guests we have on, we can't talk a lot about this stuff, but I noticed that one of the things that you mentioned early on the show and the pre-show material was that you like to talk about how recruiters have a bad reputation in the industry, partly because of the show, I'd imagine. But
that doesn't help. Doesn't help.
And I talked about it at length as well. I've talked about it a lot. And I'm curious, what made you, I guess, talk about that, and what led you there?
Because it's true. I think there's a lot of recruiters out there that maybe I don't want to say this right now because this is a very fun show and stuff, but are not as, let's say, sophisticated or professional, and they
sorry,
they don't know how to take it to the next level to do big business, like do business with major organizations around the world, and God bless them, man. Like everybody's hustling, they're doing the same thing, but I think that it's not that hard to do good and be able to execute and do really solid business. And I think people miss the mark. So
how do they stand out? Like what's the takeaway here? Like what do people do? What are like the main 4 or 5 things that they can really do to make a change and really impact their business?
Here's an example that comes to my head. A lot of people talk crap about their clients, and they talk crap about HR, and they don't think about how can I partner up with this person in order to make it happen and have a better relationship. Instead, they get caught up in like, why is this not happening for me? Or, oh, they don't want me to go to the hiring manager, whatever. Well, listen, if you don't know to do your due diligence or enough about the industry already, you've got to build relationships with all types of different people in the organization. But a lot of recruiters, it's like they like to major in the minors and not think of the big leagues, like how do you develop a relationship with a major multi-billion-dollar organization to keep having, repeat business, not just one hire and piss off the HR person. You know what I mean? Yep.
Well, to piggyback off that, I think a lot of the big problem is that a lot of these recruiters have this broker mindset. If you close one deal as an independent, it's like maybe 25, 30 grand. You're good for a month or two. So it's like whatever they got to do to close that one deal. And so they live in a kind of a position of scarcity, So for them, it's just they got to do whatever they got to do to get that one deal. Yeah. And they're not willing to, let's say, try to get a high level fee or high level search because they don't want to lose that chance. They'll just get a contingency, work their butt off for a bit, represent the candidate, maybe not tell a client something about the candidate so the client loses some trust. And it's that sort of culture, I think, unfortunately, has just permeated the industry because it's such a cottage industry and because we all, not all of us, but a lot of them just act like brokers. I mean, I'll ask clients,
like,
I say, look,
like gropers or brokers?
The brokers.
Oh, I think brokers.
Resume brokers. Like I'll ask prospects or clients, whatever. I'll say, look, isn't it weird when the recruiter always represents the candidate, but you're the one footing the bill?
Right.
Just does that stick in your craw?
David, I love that. You say that all the time, and it's such a great line because it's so true.
And they never think about it, but then they get that aha moment. And that's one of my favorite zingers to use in talking to prospect, because then they realize, no, it's the confirming somebody else's suspicions is a great way to influence them.
Yeah.
And so when you confirm their suspicions, yeah, isn't it weird when yeah, kind of is weird. Well, here's why. And now they say, oh, okay, this person gets it, and they get me. So yeah, I think it's I definitely think that in a lot of ways, because recruiters, I think, are not respected. I personally think it's an opportunity for those who are willing to step above.
Yeah.
Because you can juxtapose yourself against the industry and show how you're different, and it's not that hard to do.
Right. I agree with you.
What else, Kathleen? What else is what they do bad that they could change, that they should change?
Yeah.
I mean, I love all my fellow peers and recruiters out there, so I don't want people to think I'm like.
Hey, listen, it's always the exception. We know 99%. You're talking to the exception on here. It's always how you pose it. It's never them. But I'll tell you what, the Hurt Group, and all, they're very, very introspective. So go ahead, throw it out there. We won't offend anyone. You're not gonna offend anyone. We talk about our nipples, for goodness sakes. You're not gonna offend them saying that they might not return phone calls. You know.
I think as an industry and recruiters in general, they need to think outside of the box when it comes to business development as well. Like, we've been around for a long time, right? Recruiting has, and it's like, how many years are we just going to cold call to try to get businesses with openings? Or how many years are we going to just, call about my best candidate that I have right now? Things have changed, like with technology and the world and business development and marketing, that it's like, if you're stuck, I just find that there's a lot of people who are stuck in the olden ways to get things done, and they're having problems with it, and they run up against a brick wall. You want
to know what's so interesting, and so I sell a little bit of a different product, of course, but it's the same type of sell, right? And so when I get a hot lead where I know uses my service, the same as you get an opening of your recruiter, what I do all the time now, and this is honestly, and I'm a trainer in this thing, and this is new for me in the last year or so. I go on LinkedIn. I don't want to say flirt, because there's a guy too. I totally bond. I totally make it about their like old school, but new school, about something really fun that I saw in there. And we just get banter going, right? And the person that banters really, and in truth, it's just all, hey, I saw this. It made me laugh. What's it? They'll respond back. I do something funny. And it's okay. I don't ever mind turning into a sales call. And I'm like, now, by the way, now that we're BFFs, do you ever use the back office? And it's amazing because the relationships I get, all my clients are going to be types that like the show, kind of, right? If they don't like me being a little silly or whatever, but it's amazing how that way is the only way to really get business, right? Not the
barrier. They automatically they want to do this. When you're trying to sell them, some of the worst people to sell to are salespeople. You know what I mean? Because they don't
the recruiters are the worst, David.
Yeah, they are. It's the craziest thing. I find it funny when a recruiter gets pissed off that a telemarketer calls them. I'm like, man,
that's me. I'm not telemarketer. Yeah. I'd say, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
But I will say this: it's a lot of it's used knowing your audience. I know, or as I like to call it, it's having an attunement to your prospect's subjective emotional experience. What does that mean?
Does that have an acronym? You're a sticker political.
It's a fancy way of just saying meeting them where they're at. Basically, like, for example, if you call, here's a great example, calling the job lead, right? So you call an ad, it's really low hanging fruit, right? But because low hanging fruit, what's going on? If you call there and say, or with your email, and hi, this is Bob with blah, 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 and we are a 20-year firm, and say all the things that everybody else says, they've gotten 20, 30 of those messages or whatever, and they're sick of it. They don't want to hear you. And so if you can have an attunement to that, and maybe talk to them about that, and let them know, hey, I get what's going on around there. Everybody's saying the exact same thing. Whatever you have to do, but I think a lot of it is you have to find ways to get past that, whether it's being funny, whether it's being different, whether it's being
just connecting. It's not even funny, right, David? It's just connecting.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. You go on about connecting and knowing your audience. We had a post in the Her a couple days ago, and I pulled it up while you were talking. And this guy said, and he's probably still in the group, and nothing against the guy, but it's just funny because I don't think he knew the audience. He said, would you mind helping me with an industry question? What are some of the frustrations, silent battles, or pitfalls you've experienced after mastering HERC? And HERC meaning the acronym of our group, hashtag HERC. So after mastering HERC, obviously he doesn't know his audience. And the guy was kind of lit up in the comments, right? And I think a lot of it is like just recruiters should have I actually think it's a funny question. I think people should have an understanding of their market. They don't have an attunement, and they're very awkward, and they don't have the willpower to actually change their behavior and change their skill set over time. Just make more phone calls, as opposed to maybe take a step back and say, okay, where am I going wrong? Where am I doing this? And figuring out how can I change my approach to get better results. So anyway, long ass rant, but I want to make sure I got that mastering HERC comment in there.
You're overcompensating for Afghanistan is what's happening right now. Totally.
Sir,
I'm
okay with being a modest 12. I don't need to overcompensate.
So and then Kathleen, I'm curious about your inbound, because to finish up David's thought and mine, what I find happening, even though I know there's a real lead right there and they're using and I can get in on it, 80% of the time, and I wait for them, they know what I do. I make sure they know what I do. I'm totally genuinely connecting, right? So it's no BS. I'm really enjoying them, and we're really enjoying back and forth, and I'm limiting the number of people I do it with. They come to me, they say, hey, listen, tell me more about this. We're using your competitor, right? I can't tell you how many times I say, look, we're using competitor X, Y, and Z for you. What's your deal? And so it's amazing to have someone, because you just separate it out. So Kathleen, you mentioned what's your secret sauce, if you don't mind sharing, about how you're getting inbound business like this and not cold calling regularly. How?
It's complicated.
All right. What are some of those essences?
It is. And I don't mind sharing my secret sauce at all. And I
feel like that's almost should be a sexual kind of guest female, but secret change of word. Are you wearing, what are you wearing? Are you wearing a spaghetti strap? No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. That's my Howard Stern thing.
All right. No worries. I'm wearing a maxi dress.
And this is where we go off the rails here.
No, it's not off the rails. I'm saying women I could wear a t-shirt and shorts. Women they could wear so many beautiful dresses and summer dresses and tank tops. And not that I want to be a woman, but I'm jealous of the fashion. We have very little choices as a guy.
You're jealous that women.
A little bit. Is that wrong? Does that make me slightly metro?
I'm pretty good with my board shorts and t-shirts. I don't need much. I need my rompers.
If that's wrong, I don't want to be right, peoples.
All right. So to answer
showtime
about lead gen. So this didn't happen overnight. For a long while, we identified the need to create a lot of content and push it out there into the universe. But strategic content that I knew the different audiences needed. And I knew that because I did case studies and pulled in, hey, for HR people, can I ask you some questions, and I'm going to send you a gift card from Starbucks. Hey, VP of Sales and Marketing, can I have you on a quick call to ask you questions? And it's questions to understand, what do these people want to hear, how often they want to hear it, what don't they want to hear, what do they do for fun, to relax, just lots of different things about their life. So we create content to speak to our audience, and it's not a heavy pitch. It never is. You're doing the right hook, and you're going in a different way. And it also started by paying a lot for Google pay-per-click a long time ago. A lot, like a pretty hefty budget. And then, when Google started indexing a different way, we're like, we're not spending that amount of money. We're not getting any results. So we started doing back-end SEO stuff and with content and just a lot of stuff being pushed out in different manner. And it's beautiful. It's given us massive billion-dollar companies that have come to us, hey, can we help you? Foot Locker, hey, or no, can you help us? Raytheon, can you help us? And it's just created this boomerang effect where now I've been in business for 18 years, and we only work on getting new existing leads in. And we do have an internal process for existing customers. We have a top 55 existing customers, and we've got a weekly strategy where we do touch points and reach outs for existing. But again, it's never a ask. It's never a ask.
Yeah.
It's a tip. It's a value add. It's something like that. So you got to think differently. You got to think.
So, and you kind of operate like a retail business, right? Sorry.
A retail business.
Well, meaning you do like retail type promos, right? Like you come up with like quarterly promotions, right? That you do. So tell us a little bit about that, because you're very big on it. Yeah.
Before we get to that, I want to go back to content here real quick, because I want to make sure I cover this before we move on to that, if you don't mind. And I do want to ask this real quick. Back to content, you talking about providing value and writing content about what people want. I'm curious. One of the biggest things that I kind of rail against a lot is the sheer amount of volume of content that recruiters put out, which is really vanilla and generic. 5 best ways to interview a top sales candidate, and there's like 10 of them that come out that same day, and it's just an overload. And so I know a lot of times it's just value, kind of falls flat. So how are you making your content hook? You mentioned getting a hook, right? How are you making a hook beyond just kind of spouting value? Because that's a big thing that a lot of recruiters think are missing in their content game.
Well, we have an integrated program and we have a marketing calendar. So we plan out like what type of content is going out in advance. So it could be, we just did a survey about the pandemic. So we spent time in production getting it ready, and then their survey is going to go out to our audience. So our hiring managers, our C-level decision makers, stuff like that.
And what's cool is no one's done a survey about the pandemic, I don't think. No, big sarcasm, big funny. No, this is a very odd day. No, you look really upset, Kathleen. I'm sorry, David's happy. I know you're happy to see me. You're happy to have dead air after I said that. You're like glowing. You're like thrilled that it just happened to me, Kathleen. I'm sorry. I just meant. Anyway, back to you.
No,
what Neil said.
I don't even know what I was saying.
Content that hooks, content that grabs attention,
and quarterly promotions. You could blend them all together.
Okay.
Yes, he has authority. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on Neil's quarterly promotions, we do something, and everybody can do monthly, whatever you want to do, but we do like, all right, 10% off on, your final invoice. Just a heads up, my top 55 customers, this is what we're going to do. If you're going to be hiring somebody in this month, you get 10% off, just things like that. Like, we look all over the place. I don't look left and right, like in the recruiting industry a lot. I tend to look at what is going on in the bigger sphere, if you will, and what is this person doing to hook, right, and convert. And so we tend to pick up different things from different industries, and I don't stay steady with my
but why does it work, the promos, you think? Like for me, when I would always do promos as a group, it's not that the promos worked per se. I found that it gave a reason to rally around the promo for better follow-up, for making calls to the people based on it. Not necessarily, does someone react to a 10% off in your quarterly stuff? They do in and of themselves?
They do.
All right.
Yeah, so if a company is having a problem filling a position, it's been open for a while, and then they get that in front of them, and it's only 10% on a total invoice. I'm not saying I would put my fee down at 10%, but it's only 10% off. It's like,
right, 30% to 27, not the 30% to 20 that most recruiters think, or 25% to 22.5%, right? Exactly. Not to 15. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, smart. Yeah.
But that said, but Neil, you make a good point as far as having something to talk about rallying around that. I think a lot of recruiters, one of the issues they have is because of that broker mindset that we spoke about earlier, is that all recruiters really know how to do is, hey, we've got a candidate, you want them? Hey, do you get any needs? Hey, can I help? Any needs? Hey, can I help? Check it in, touch base, and so they don't know what to talk about, and that's why they kind of fall back on the 4 best tips to interview salespeople. That's kind of boring. So you're either promote things like that, a promotion, or if you can create things in your practice that just give you like a LinkedIn group or whatever it is, but just something to talk about that's beyond just asking for business all the time, because that's when you get ignored, because nobody likes to be asked for business all the time.
We'll send a reach out like of me and my team on a boat, like to all of our customers or prospects, like, hey, we just did this for fun. Hope you're having a good Friday as well. Something like that. Just anything.
I do a reach around, which is For those of you who don't know what a reach around is, that's when you reach out to them after you've already reached out. So you can't kind of come back.
Different kind of. We're in Florida, Neil, and down south is a little bit different.
Poor Kathleen. She's going to Google. She's going to be mortified later when sweetheart, talk to her husband. What is a reach around? It's like David's Tinder funnel. Are you able to talk about the Tinder funnel this week, even though we have a female guest, David? Because you keep putting it off. The audience wants to know. You brought it up. When do we talk about it?
The Tinder funnel I keep under wraps. We will talk about it someday. We will. If you
Should I keep reminding you or not? Like every week, I have it pop up in the morning before the show. Remind David about the Tinder funnel. I don't mind. I could do it each week, and one day when it's ready, it'll be ready.
Put it that way. I was a very optimized funnel.
So, Kathleen, you know what's cool about? I saw you talk about, and I think it's a great thing to sort of share with everyone. You have a really high acceptance rate and with your candidates and a low fall off rate. And you were talking about the fact that you've taught all your people and you learned by the School of Hard Knocks to let them go. Like when people are desperate to make a placement, you're like, I'm going to save myself lots of problems. I'm going to let you go. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? Tell us about that.
I know what you're talking about. It's a tough thing to do, right?
No, but I don't think they know what I'm talking about. So reiterate with what I just asked you.
All right. So basically, I've always coached my team to say, listen, if it's gray, stay away. If they're starting to misbehave and piss you off in the process or show weird characteristics of lack of follow-up and stuff like that, no, man, they're showing us our true colors. And a lot of the times this is when it all comes out, right, in the recruiting process. So, I teach them they've got to pull them. They've got to pull them. And sometimes even we have to pull them during the interview process. And we kind of talk to our customers about it and say, listen, this is what we're seeing. I don't know. I wanted to make you aware so you can make the call here. But and usually we're dead on. We've been doing this too long that it's like if our instincts are normally right, And
the trust that you build with that is huge. I mean, again, I realize recruiters represent the candidate, they fit the bill. And I'll be honest, that builds up a lot of distrust in the market or the industry as a whole. And unfortunately, recruiters have the scarcity mindset where they're not very good at what they do. So they get a job order and there's a few other recruiters working on it. Like they've got a candidate in how, it's, I will say this, and I tell clients this, I said, don't set a recruiter up for failure. Don't set the incentives in a way that if they incentivize towards their best interest, actually hurts you as the client, because you wouldn't do that as a parent, you wouldn't do that as an employer. Don't do it with your vendors or the people that service you. And so I think if you can, if you work on a retained basis and also have the ability to get a lot of candidates and the ability to get a lot of clients, and you have a lot of choice, then it gets to the point where you can start doing that. But man, when you've got like that one send out and face-to-face, you've got nothing else, and your bank account is getting down to about that because you suck as a recruiter, that's when the issues come up. And I've seen some really bad stories come about because of that, right?
Yeah, and Kathleen, even though I know you moved to retainer mostly, this is contingency. You did this and do this as well, right? On contingency, you smell a fish going bad, you pull it very early, yeah?
Yeah, when we were
working against multiple recruiters at the same time in those situations.
Well, what's cool is I was thinking the same thing you did, David, that what she's saying would lend itself to a perfect spiel about, listen, next time, let's work retainer, because most recruiters aren't going to do what I just did because it's not in their interest. That's to your point. So I think it lends itself great, but regardless, easy on retainer to do it, but on contingency, what credibility you get. And it does. It stops those deals that so many recruiters, especially if they only have one, they're desperate for that deal. And they also forget about the opportunity cost of the time they're spending on that. What are some of the signs that you see that you think you might pull people earlier than maybe your average recruiter would?
We don't like non-responsiveness at all. If you start to treat us with lack of communication, it is a massive red flag in how they handle life, how they handle, their business and all that stuff, because we approach things at such a professional level. If they're starting to do that, there's a major character flaw, or they're just not interested at all. And I'm going to pull them. Like if they're playing around and they're just showing that they're not interested.
Right. Even if it means like takes a day for them to get back to you, your client loves them, and a normal person's going to get back to you that day, or right, you set the expectation. This is what I need you to do, and they don't do it. You know, something's wrong. Something's wrong.
Right. Well, we text a ton as well. Like,
what is this texting that you speak of?
A texting is something on a mobile phone that like you use your fingers with, and then you
talk to David. You have something on your phone that you use your fingers with. You are so talking my language, girl. David,
well, in high school, drug dealers had pagers. If you had a pager, you were a drug dealer. That's how old I am, basically.
But David's the digital headhunter. So David, take note of this thing that they refer to as texting. I think it might help your package.
Or sexting. I had that in my little funnel. Oh, I will say this though as well about candidates. One thing I found, which is pretty telling, is if so there's a lot of recruiters tend to glad hand their candidates, right? So they ask them all the softball questions because they want to have a good candidate. They don't want to find out anything bad, so they don't ask really hard questions. And candidates get used to that. And sometimes I find that if I'm going hard on a candidate, and I go really hard, and I ask them pretty tough pointed questions, and if they're really good, they hang in the pocket with me, and we can crack them open. We can have a really, really honest conversation. And the ones that get super defensive are the ones that get super they get kind of put off that I'm asking those sorts of questions. For me, that's a red flag, because if they're going to get put on me asking those questions, they're either hiding something, or they're not very good, or something's going on. And they're used to recruiters trying to softball them all the time. And that's right. I think value in asking some of those really, really hard questions.
And that's why I tell recruiters when a deal falls apart, they're well, I did everything I could. Did you? Like I always say, be hard on yourself. Like, were there not signs? Right. Is there not something like they live in hope a lot, you know, and the time that you spend on it, like that's why you're so successful, because you're able to move on. No, look, I might be blowing a deal that might have happened, but then the odds of it not being a fall off are there, or the odds of your client not being thrilled with the person it's significantly greater. So it's so much better for your business and your pocketbook not to do that. Right. So, you know, yeah.
The worst though is when you have an employee, you have a recruiter that is a new hire, either 6 months in, they're sucking up draw, haven't closed the deal yet, and every week they got their sheet dark. Oh, almost. Oh man, it's so close. Come on, it's one more week, and then you're like just sucking up draw the entire time. Every owner has been through that, right? And that's for me, that is the absolute worst.
Ding 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 ding. Join us, Kathleen. Ding 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 ding.
What's it represent anymore? Morse code? Is this Morse code?
Yeah, we got. Why don't you have David? You have great, like you control the whole panel there. We got to get. Can you put a note? Get great news music and just play it. Can't you?
Yeah,
or do we have to be in pause? Come on. I mean, not that's not fun us doing it, but you're right. It's morphing into Morse code.
I need to do our little thing. Here.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. Anyway.
All right,
sir. We got the news.
So the first story, not being funny, but guess what, Kathleen? Guess what? It's a poll on.
It could be anything.
The pandemic. It's a poll on the pandemic. Oh. One of those clever. So I can't believe that you mentioned that you do that. And I actually found a poll on the pandemic to talk about today. What are the odds? But due to the pandemic, and we've talked about this a little bit before, but this is new data. The majority of people will work from home more frequently. 74% said they would like to work from home more. Now that's up from 60% in the past. And then 37% now is the number, say they're more productive. So again, what's your take? I mean, I find these hysterical. So 30%, yeah, I want to work from home a lot more. And I'm a lot more productive when I do it also. What do you think?
I don't know.
What do you think?
I think for the most part, it's probably true. You know, I think there's definitely a transformation going on, you know, to show businesses and people in general what you can do at home. So
it's a tough transition, though. I got to tell you, from personal experience, it took me a couple of years to get to the point where I didn't feel like I had to go to a bar at 5 o'clock just so I could get out of work, because otherwise I'm same place where I work and you feel like a hermit. And that's what, you know, you go to the bar, you got to do something, and you have to eventually you get to the point where you can separate out your home office from your other living areas. But man, it takes a while, I think, personally.
I do too. You know what? So
there.
what I said was the numbers went up. The number of people who want to work from home went up, but the number of people who said they're more productive went down. And that doesn't shock me because, as David's saying, I don't even believe the number is 37%. I agree. I think the learning curve to be able to do that is significantly more. I don't think people are more productive. Don't get me wrong. Ultimately, I think I much prefer it. Love not to commute. Love not to have all that headache. Love not to have to dress up. Love to be able to work in my underwear or my boxers. Sometimes I actually I come out of the shower, I've got nothing on but a t-shirt, or sometimes nothing. How do you like that? They don't know it. I love that. And speaking of which, not to digress, be honest now, Kathleen. I want you to be honest. No, I want to ask a woman this. I want her to be honest. Have you, please, have you ever done a call with a client when you were maybe tinkling or doing number two? Let's say tinkling. You never. All right, David, you be honest. Have you ever taken your phone and they didn't know it? Maybe you mute it during the flush. I've done it where I have to pee, and then when it comes to flush time, I make sure I hit mute because I don't want them to hear the. David, you honestly, I've done it often.
I'll do you one better.
All right. That's my boy. That's my boy.
Catheter in for a week.
What?
And
what for a week?
And yeah. Because I had medical procedures done. And so I'll do you one better. I've had a catheter in for an entire 10 days. And while working. So
wow, you would just let it go. But how about, I'm talking about, have you taken your phone in and you sit down and you're doing business and you're taking a phone call knowing they're not going to know?
It's got to hit mute at the right time.
Yes, I'm saying you hit mute at all the right times.
Walk out really fast, unmute it, and boom, no one's the wiser. I mean, that's the move right there.
That's right. Sometimes, and I hate to get too graphic here, Kathleen, but this is the show. So I once thought maybe I could meet like my future wife on the show, but the stuff I'm saying, no woman in her right mind would ever consider dating me watching the show. Like I'm horrible. I disgust myself. That's sad. Sometimes you can't flush because you're on the call, you're in the middle of a sentence, so you can't mute it, and you leave the bathroom. And then you forget that you didn't flush, and you come back later, and you have to deal with the aftermath of your decision.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Kathleen? Can you relate to what I'm saying?
I can hear what you're saying.
So I will say, we're going off the rails here. I will say this for those folks who are working from home and they're having a hard time with the transition. A lot of people are. One thing that really helped me was having a routine. Like, for example, when you wake up in the morning, make your bed. Do stretch for 10 minutes. Have a set routine, set time every day. Go to bed early, same time every day. Having a routine, because I think people when they work from home, they go off the rails because they think, I can relax. I'll watch the Game of Thrones show over lunch. Like, you have to completely separate out your work and your personal, have a schedule, have a routine. Otherwise, you are not going to be very productive. I think you can be more productive at home for sure if you're self-motivated and keep yourself regimented, right? Yeah. And don't get involved in these sorts of crazy internet shows like Neil and I did, because that's
what a waste. Who watches this? What a waste of your time. Can I just say this? Stop watching this. No, I'm kidding. Kidding. Okay, I totally get the dude.
Rich Rosen just texted me. He said he's listening to the show right now. Rich was one of our biggest show on so far. He had tens of views literally, and he said that he closed his biggest deal ever while in the men's room.
I love Rich Rosen for so many reasons, and the list keeps on getting bigger.
Okay.
Well, that's all.
Hey, Neil, I have a question. Have you ever closed a deal in the ladies' room?
It's funny. I have closed a deal. Actually, I don't even want to get there. I did close a deal in the ladies' room once, and let's not go there, okay? And not if I want to keep the show PG-13, okay? All right, our next news story, and this was super interesting. It's about the remote work and everything caused by the pandemic, but they say the benefits of working remotely now, this is a different story. So it's not just the things that we talked about, but it's actually reducing the wage gap. And what I mean by that is that the top 15 most expensive cities in the world, are $40.54 is what they're talking about, compared to only $28.36 per hour for everywhere else, right? So the top 50 most expensive cities will typically get a 40% premium, which we know that when people relocate or what have you. And now they're seeing it going away. right? So they're now seeing it being spread out. So 49% of business spend now is moving away from these top 15 into all of these other lower cost locations, which is what, I mean, it's fascinating, really, if you think about it. And what does that mean for recruiters and people that live in high income areas? Like, can that really, it will go away. Does it mean that that it goes down in these high income areas? And what does that mean for the cities? Or does it change wages there? And it's certainly awesome for people that work in the middle of Iowa in a cornfield that can now make the same money or similar money to someone working outside of, let's say Chicago.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, wow. I could tell when it's a bad story when there's dead air again. Wow. I thought this was interesting.
I will say that I think part of it for one is also the rise of remote work, especially now. You can do the same. You don't have to be in New York. You can be for me, being an SAP and my firm, the fact that now you don't necessarily need to relocate somebody in, which is awesome. And second, I think because of a lot of the unrest and political things going on, you're seeing a lot of flight from cities too. So, for example, like New York has lost something like a huge percentage of their wealthiest and upper middle class people. A lot of wealth is leaving the city as well. It's also having a big effect on because it has pressure on wages.
But what's that going to do? Because the problem is yes, these high cities get a dramatic premium, but most of that premium goes to the cost of living and housing, right? I mean, so you look at all them. So what's going to happen there if this really happens? They need that premium. I don't think it's good, really. Like I think it has major ramifications.
The wealthy leave, the tax base leaves. The infrastructure suffers, and then of course the demand for housing goes down. I mean, so it kind of has a cascading effect. I think it's less desirable as well. So if you want to live in Manhattan, now you might say, I don't know if I want to go there. I'd rather go to maybe a suburb in New Jersey instead, because now I think it's becoming less and less attractive as well, living in those cities. So yeah, I think it's fantastic for recruiters if they can adjust. I mean, I think personally,
it's actually giving corporations a new kind of mindset about where they can get talent too. Because, like, for an example, I've got a client that wanted to relocate somebody to make sure that the person could relocate to Reston, Virginia, and the cost of living in Reston is insane compared to most places.
Cheap, insanely cheap. You mean? No. It's expensive. Yeah,
it's just right outside of DC.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane compared to most places across the United States. So,
wow.
They're what they're finding is, okay, keep them in Tampa, keep them in North Carolina. We'll pay them $225 on the base instead of paying them, what we have to here at $275. So, I think it's like a transformation that's happening on the employer side as well to really see these things differently.
But I guess to David's point, it probably people will get hurt. There'll be winners and losers in it, like everything. They'll probably be equal, and it equalizes, right? I guess what you're saying is if it does really happen, I mean, Manhattan's not a great idea because lots of money can move there. They don't care. They live there for the experience. But all these cities, eventually the real estate market would then drop. It would have to, because these people are moving out, and therefore it becomes more affordable, and you could afford to live there with remote work, right? And that's what you're saying, David, I guess. Yeah?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Well, and also the tax base leaves, subways don't get repaired, things get repaired, and you got the whole defund the police thing going on. Not to get political, but it
now, how is defunding the police getting political? How would that possibly bring up a political comment?
Hey, to actually stay away from politics. Our for some reason our comments aren't working here on Be Live, so we can't show them on the screen. But I will say that Michael G. Cox just said that.
Love that name. I love that name.
It's insane.
Ruining his Tinder funnel with these topics. Yeah, so that's what his comment was, and I had to point that out because that was particularly funny. And you are, sir, ruining your Tinder funnel.
Kathleen, do you like Michael G. Cox?
I don't know him, but he was on a show with me, and he was a cool dude. Yeah, we had a good time. I like his name a lot.
What a great name.
And I like what he's trying to do. He's a sales recruiter, and he's...
That's what I'm talking about. We need more of that. David, we need more of that in the show. So next show, get like 6 or 7 of those.
I was trying to minimize it and hit play by accident.
No, that's awesome. Get those for next week's show.
Michael G. Cox.
Or what's the story? I was telling you about him.
Michael G. Cox, yeah. He's a great
Anyway.
guy. Great, yeah, Michael J. Cox. He's actually a student. He's actually seen one of my programs. But yeah, he does have a great name. He always says Michael G. Cox.
Yeah.
I still say it's Michael J. It's a spoof on a porn thing with Michael J. Fox as the actor. That's really what it is. It always strikes me as funny. It's a great name, even if it's totally legit. It is. I love it. Neil Lebovits. What a horrible name. You know, it's like there's nothing like Michael G. Cox, David Stephen Patterson. Like these are great names.
Yeah.
David Patterson. I'd kill for that.
Yeah. What do you think of Kathleen Steffey?
You know what? It's unique. I don't think it stands out as anything bad. Kathleen's a beautiful name.
Okay.
Steffi is nondescript. I don't know what a Steffi is. It's a nice name.
Okay.
If you were named Karen, that would be the worst, though. Imagine being named Karen.
Poor Karen's.
Right.
Kathleen, do you like your last name? What's your maiden name?
I love my last name. Maiden name is Barry.
My God, Barry, like Barry or Barry?
BE. My dad, 100% Irish. That man, and I grew up in a very Irish culture. So
that's a great name. That's got to be hard to change your name. Not like mine. When I married my ex-wife, she wasn't my ex-wife then. She was my soon-to-be ex-wife. Not soon. 14 years. Anyway, she had a great last name, and then she had to change it to Lebovits. So Barry is awesome.
Yeah.
You're Irish, so I have to ask, what is a shillelagh? I've always wanted to know.
Yes.
Shillelagh?
Shillelagh. Shillelagh, right?
Is that like a tallywhacker?
I think it's a tallywhacker. Maybe.
was that last week for those tallywhackers?
I've never heard of a shillelagh.
Is it shillelagh? Shillelagh?
Is it an instrument?
It's something the leprechaun, I believe. I don't know. It's an Irish thing.
All right, question.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Kathleen, are Lucky Charms to you? Are they just delicious or are they magically delicious?
Definitely magically.
And the green clovers when they added that, plus or no difference?
Certainly a plus, without question.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
And if you're Irish, you have to ask: is saying the word leprechaun, is that offensive to leprechauns?
Great question.
No.
Is that offensive to leprechauns?
I don't know what's the proper terminology.
No.
Yeah, it should be, right? Because it's like a dwarf Irish person, isn't it? Right? It's like calling an Irish person a midget. It's a leprechaun. That's what it means if you look it up.
Yeah.
Can I get the leprechaun?
The symbol of gold, the leprechaun. He brings gold.
Right. Well, do you know that you can't have a pot at the end of the rainbow? Because a rainbow, actually, if you see it's from space or from the air, not from air, from an airplane. But a rainbow is actually a full circle, right? It's just that the Earth itself, from your angle of where you could see it, gets cut off in the ground. But it's a true. So there is no end of a rainbow. It's an elliptical. It's a full elliptical. Yeah.
That's a new fact I just learned.
Yes, Google it. It's beautiful when you actually see from the sky. You could see what a rainbow is. Yeah, it's really cool. But it makes sense. Of course, it doesn't just end at a perfect, like right where the Earth is.
Where he knows the Earth is flat. But
the Earth is flat. Yes. Okay. So last story. This one sort of pisses me off, not because I'm in the back office providing temps for people when you need to get temps placed. Use me for your back office. But David, you had no plug in the early part this week, by the way. That's sad. So listen to this one. On temp, this is something that legislation is being proposed, okay, aimed at temp workers. That's going to require staffing agencies all to register, okay, which I don't think is necessarily the bad thing. They're going to insist that temp wages get raised. So in my mind, off of supply and demand and normal economic conditions. I hate that. And limit conversion fees because they feel that when agencies come in there and ask for basically direct hire fees and perm fees, it interferes with their ability to get equal work from someone that doesn't have a fee attached. How fucking annoying is that? Honestly, and I'm sorry for my friend. That drives me nuts. All right. And this is coming out of Massachusetts, so it's very liberal, but it's named Restoring Worker Power Act. This pisses me off beyond belief, but you don't have to agree. And imagine it on the perm side of the business.
Wait.
Yeah, go ahead.
It has consequences. People don't realize that the act passed in California, where I guess the gig economy, right?
Yeah.
Almost the entire the entire writing industry in California has been gutted because. Now, according to that bill, you can only write 37 articles in a year. Well, you had an entire industry that would do freelance writing. Now, companies just say, well, don't hire any California writers, hire elsewhere. And, these laws have consequences, man, that they don't think about. don't think about it. I think this
But
one.
So how does this get? It's ridiculous. There's 9 points on it, right? Some of them make great sense. I mean, I don't know. Number one, temporary workers need to be the same as direct hired people. Okay, why?
Yeah.
If that's not supply and demand, if they're out of work, if they have a worse work history, if they want to have more life balance, why do they need to be what happened to our, and again, I'm liberal, okay? I'm definitely a moderate, but I've been liberal. This is ridiculous. And I know anyone conservative is going to find this outrageous. I hope the liberal, and again, not political, how is that not annoying? Like everyone, I don't understand. It's not how I was raised of what capitalism is. What am I missing on that?
I apologize about Neil's rant, but I'm curious, Kathleen, what's your take on the subject after he's going to die? He's going to die on that hill, by the way.
I know, it sounds like you're really, really passionate about it because this is your predominant model, right, in business. I don't know. Okay,
Kathleen, let me give you another one. You change, okay? Number 6. Some of them are good, right? Same safety audit. Number 6, limit the use of conversion fees. That's direct hire fees. That's perm placement fees associated, okay? That hinder the future job prospects of temporary workers because it either prohibits the host employers from hiring them directly without a fee, or requiring the host employer to pay the staffing agency fee. They want to stop that. So that's the same as you could put the exact same language in direct search, stop agencies, because it hinders companies that can't afford to pay or don't want to. They're not getting the same talent, right? So how about that line? You could relate to that. That's not just, it is temp.
It's over the top. It's over the top.
You shouldn't put regulate, like I'm a big believer in John Locke and the free exchange of goods and services, because the more you may have well-intended reasons to do something, but look, at the end of the day, usually those things go awry and hinder economic growth. And I think just adding more regulation, I mean, we need good regulation. Obviously, sure, we don't want to populate or pollute rivers necessarily. But that said, I think for the most part, I'm a big believer in if I want to sell my labor and I want to sell my services for a certain price and somebody's willing to pay it, that's the market, man.
Or someone's going to go after less. That's the market. It's crazy.
And both parties walk away happy. If one party walks away happy, then it's not a free exchange. If it's a free exchange, both parties are like, that's good stuff. Then do we need the government in there to say, oh, no, you can't do that. Not good enough. I'm not a big believer in that. But
so anyway,
I'm
sorry, I was just saying we're going to have you wrap up the show. We're out of time here. News segment is over. I did want to say next week, and David will wrap up, thank our host and all that stuff. Next week, we've got Mike Gianta from the Recruiter U, world famous trainer, funny guy, super interesting. We're going to talk about what he's seeing out there, what the biggest failure points are, what the biggest areas for turnaround have been for people. So it's going to be a must-watch episode next week for sure. So David, I turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Well, hey, first off, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Kathleen, I really appreciate you for being on the show. And I also apologize because I know I'll probably get a nasty letter afterwards. I'm sorry for Neil's behavior. I apologize. Wholeheartedly. Please don't sue us. We'll lose the last of our sponsor because we don't have sponsors. But that said, I really appreciate everybody. I've got no plugs today because, quite frankly, I don't need to plug shit. You all know what I do.
It's true. It's true.
Join us next week. We'll get this show up live on or record up on YouTube here shortly, and last week's as well. A little bit behind on it. With all of that being said, thank you, everybody. We love you all. Peace out. Hey, thank you for watching Headhunters and Boxers Talking Smack. Who doesn't love Headhunters and Boxers? And who doesn't love talking smack? Join the show every Friday, 12 noon Eastern, live in the Headhunter and Executive Recruiter Community. Make sure you click one of these boxes here and watch some of these videos or something. I don't know what's going on here. I just work here.